So you think you know all about all the new construction in Aledo area? Well, think again, because I'm going to show you the top 5 hidden gems in the Aledo area that you may have never heard of. I'm going to give you an overview and my personal thoughts on each one of them. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, my name's Jared with Living in Aledo, and if you are thinking about making a move to Aledo area for work or for life or for personal reasons, hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's hop into the video. Okay, so first up on the list is going to be the most affordable new construction neighborhood you probably have never heard of, and that's going to be Country Hollow Estates. So when I first saw this, I think it was like a Sunday morning, I was on my way to church, and I looked up and I was like, what's that new sign pointing to new construction homes that I can literally see while driving on 20? We'll talk about personal thoughts for all of these neighborhoods at the end of each little section. But I saw that, I was like, I need to check that out. Like, what is that? And so Country Hollow Estates is a community that is being built by History Maker Homes. So there's only one builder, and that's History Maker Homes. Price point is going to be in the low 400s to the mid 500s right now, depending on the size. And my initial concern was that it looked like the entrance to the neighborhood was off the access road. And it is. However, so that is the main entrance. That's where the signs are. That's where I got like the flags and the advertisements. And that is kind of the primary way in. So you would be heading east on the access road in Willow Park. So you'd basically, it's like 20 and Ranch House Road. And you'd head east on the access road, and then you would turn into the neighborhood south of the highway. And now it's not like, it doesn't butt up exactly all the way to the access road, but there is kind of, that's where like the inlet comes in. And then you've got a couple of streets of development right there. Not much has been built, and maybe only one home has been sold so far. So it's still very new. Like, they've built some homes, so development has been going on for probably 6 months, or construction has. There are some homes currently available, but there's still a lot more build out to do. Then my concern was like, if I want to go west, do I have to get on the access road and then like do a U-turn or get back on the highway and go all the way to the Aledo exit? And no, they did actually resolve that. There is kind of like a back road that's behind all of the commercial development. It's like 2 separate 1-lane roads. It's almost like little alley roads, but it's not an alley. It's just like 2 separate paved roads that each are one direction. And then you can get into the back streets behind the Fuzzies, where the Parker County Brewing is, the Chicken Express, like all that area, and you can get to Ranch House Road so that, you know, if you want to go west, you can. But if you want to go east, you just pull out, you go on the access road, you hit, the Aledo exit and you get up, go that way. So convenience factor, not bad. It's actually pretty good. There is going to be an HOA there, and it's going to be $500 a year. You are going to feed into Coder Elementary. And then you do have city utilities. So you're going to have city water and gas appliances as well. So that's great. There's no PID and there's no mud, but because you are in Willow Park city limits, you're like the very, very edge. I was pulling up like city limits, and like the city limits go like this and they reach around the neighborhood. So your taxes are going to be a little over 2.2%. They are exactly 2.2326%. So you do get the city services and stuff with that though. So that's a good benefit for some people who don't want to be on well and septic. And if you're going to be in a neighborhood like this anyways, there's very few neighborhoods that would be non-city, right? What are my thoughts around Country Hollow Estates? There's some not greats, right? Some not huge positives. One of them is you're pretty close to the highway. You're probably going to hear some road noise. I have lived very close to the highway in the past. When I lived in Fort Worth, I was 5 blocks off the highway. Honestly, you kind of got used to it. I mean, it's as terrible as that sounds, you kind of get used to it. That was kind of one of our first homes. It served us super well, but I was very glad to not be that close to the highway. We were surrounded by neighborhoods that were kind of rough. So not super great there. Another thing that might concern some people, so you should do some due diligence if this does, is you basically back up to like a midstream oil and gas like holding tank facility. So I have had clients that were concerned around potential smells of gas pumps, oil pumps, wells, stuff like that. I couldn't smell anything. I was there on a pretty hot day in the afternoon, and I didn't notice anything. I didn't hear any crazy sounds. It's not like oil derricks making a bunch of noise. They're not doing off-gassing. It's just holding tanks from my understanding. But that might not be the view you want if your backyard backs up to that, but so you maybe buy on the other side of the community. So those are probably my 2 biggest negatives, would be closeness to the highway and proximity to like a oil and gas holding facility. The positives is if you are working in Fort Worth and you have a family and you want to get into the Aledo area, and maybe, you know, Walsh isn't quite in striking distance for you, or Parks of Aledo is not quite in striking distance for you on the prices, on what you can afford yet, and you don't want to be in an ocean of homes like Morningstar, right? Morningstar and Country Hollow Estates are going to have some very similar price points. And then Morningstar will have kind of a larger variety because you have different builders, some different size lots, all this other stuff. But maybe you don't want to be in this, you know, sea of homes that's still being developed, and there's probably like another 1,200 homes that are going to go in, and you want to be in a little smaller community that's basically like 4 streets, like 1 street in and then like a square. It's like maybe like a B shape, right? That's kind of like what the neighborhood, you know, is laid out as. That's going to be a great fit because it's still very affordable for the Aledo area, well underneath the average Aledo price points. You can still get a brand new home, and you can get Aledo schools. You can be super close to downtown, right? Like you are basically central to the Aledo ISD. That's going to be super convenient. So if you're commuting to Fort Worth, you have a young family, and maybe you don't want to, or you can't quite afford Walsh or Parks of Aledo yet, that's who I think this neighborhood would be great for. So stick around because I have the most unique neighborhood or new development in Aledo next. Okay, so number 2 on the list is probably the most unique development or new development in Aledo right now, and that is the villas downtown. So these are townhomes right off of like downtown Aledo. So right off Old Aneta, kind of you have the little traffic circle around Aledo, and you just jut right off, and you head toward, you know, you go past like the Aledo like community center, and then you've got the coffee shop right there, and it's right there. So you've got these townhomes that are within walking distance to the downtown area. So I think that's super cool. Obviously, like you're not going to buy your own lot over here. The builder is, and I was trying to do some research and figuring out, trying to follow these like paper trails of who's who. Basically, the developer is also building the townhomes. These are not huge builder. It's not like Highland Homes is putting townhomes over here. You have the development entity. It appears that at least the management team has developed other communities, and they have other HOAs they're attached to. And so they built this little townhome community. They are building the townhomes. There's currently only 3, and these are like duplex style townhomes, so like 2-unit townhomes. There's 3 of these 2-unit townhomes that have been built. I think only 1 has sold. Currently, the other 5 units are being offered in the 500s, 5 to 600 range. But the one that sold was listed at $525, sold for like $485. So they're probably a little bit negotiable, especially in the market that we're in. HOA dues are going to be kind of in line. They're a little bit more expensive when you compare it to other stuff, but there are townhomes, so they typically covers like exterior maintenance. You would want to double check all of this if you were interested, but oftentimes they cover some sort of exterior maintenance, maybe the green spaces, the yard, there's extra parking, so there's driveways and concrete that has to be maintained. But it's $385 per quarter, so a little over $1,500 a year. So that's something to note. You're going to be at Vandergrift Elementary, but you're going to be super central to like the Aledo area. Like you could walk to Dane's Craft Barbecue. You could walk to really anywhere in the downtown area. There's a diner, like a breakfast diner over there. There's Press Cafe. Now, if you wanted to go to like Jake's, you wouldn't want to walk up there because that's kind of north of the downtown area. You are going to be inside city limits because you're going to have, city water, city sewer, all the city services. So your tax rate is going to be about 2.19. That's Aledo City taxes, specifically Aledo City. You're going to have all that. So what are my thoughts? What are my thoughts on townhomes in Aledo? It's going to take a specific buyer for that, right? A lot of people move to Aledo because they want a little bit more space, or they want a brand new like home with a yard, or they have kids and they want like the space that comes with, what kids want to do. These might be, and I think we're kind of seeing this, a little bit harder to sell than some of the other stuff. We're also in a rough market for sellers. So you add a rough market for sellers along with something that the biggest majority of people moving to Aledo aren't actually looking for. It's going to be slow in this neighborhood. So if you want to live close, you want to be able to, hey, let's just walk over, grab a bite to eat. Let's walk over, let's grab a beer. If you want to be able to walk around to a couple of things, that's great. Now, what I've mentioned in other videos is like, there's not a ton. This is not like you are living off West 7th in Fort Worth where there's, 15 restaurants in walking distance and 3 bars and, 2 clubs. Like, it's not like that. Off the top of my head, you have Press is open for dinner every night. Dane's is only open for dinner like twice a week. The diner is like barely open for lunch. So it's not going to be this like, oh, I have a ton of options. But if you want to live downtown, you want to be right there, it's a pretty cool spot. Now, It does. It's very close to the railroad track. I don't think I've ever actually heard the train blow going through Aledo. They're not supposed to. They do blow their horn when they're like further out, and I think it's normally like because there's stuff on the tracks. It's really random when I hear it blow, but like I live way far away, and when the horn blows, I can hear it as well. Especially on like crisp, cool nights and stuff like that. So it's definitely unique. If that's what you're looking for, it could be a great option. If you want to, maybe you are relocating to be close to grandkids, or maybe you don't have kids and you just want to be in the Aledo area. You're moving to be close to family, and you want something low maintenance, you're a busy professional, like that could be a good option for you. But one thing to think about is that on resale, you're going to have kind of a smaller pool of potential buyers, just like you are in this smaller pool of potential buyers right now. So I would try to get the best deal you can on a home like this, if this is what you're looking for, and understand that on exit, whenever you do choose to sell, like you're going to probably have people doing the same thing to you, right? So not a huge deal as long as you go in knowing what to expect, because it is definitely unique. It's a little bit odd. It's a little bit different. I like that it's there. I like that there's that option, but that's not the normal thing that my clients end up looking for. But I do think it's worth mentioning because like very few people would expect or know that there are townhomes, a small townhome community in like basically downtown Aledo. So if you are liking this content and looking forward to more, make sure you hit that subscribe button, tap the bell for notifications. And if you are thinking about making that move to Aledo, feel free to reach out, shoot me a text, email. Love to get the conversation started, but let's keep rolling with the video. Okay, so next up on the list is number 3, and that is Rolling Creek Ranch. So this is another neighborhood that I just kept driving past, and I was like, oh, hey, there's a new sign. Oh, hey, what's this neighborhood? And just kept seeing it and not really like taking the time to look into it until a little while ago. And I was like, hey, this is actually a pretty neat neighborhood. I need to talk about this because it is a new construction neighborhood. Now, why didn't I not see it very often, or why was I normally just like driving past? And that's because of the location, which is off Bear Creek Road. So there are lots of great neighborhoods off Bear Creek Road, and I hate to like beat this up too much, but that just means you're going to be a little further out, and it's going to take a little longer to get wherever you want to go. So you're going to be off Bear Creek Road, and you are a little bit south of 2 other neighborhoods I've talked about in the past. So you do have La Madera, which the entrance is off FM5, but the back edge of La Madera butts up against Bear Creek Road. There's actually like an exit that occupants can take, but you have to have a gate clicker to open it, so you can't drive through if you're able to get in. So you're a little bit south of La Madera and just south of Maravilla Estates or Maravilla Vistas, which is actually off Bear Creek. So you're gonna be off Bear Creek. You're gonna have one entrance in. There's only a handful of streets, and there's currently no lots that are available in this one. So I'm gonna have a video on best neighborhoods to buy a lot in, but all the lots are currently either owned by builders or a builder. I'll talk about that in a second, or the developer still owns some. And oftentimes what developers will do is they'll maybe release them in batches to builders if they're not going to sell them individually. So this developer is Centurion America. They have developments all over the place. So unlikely that they're going to be selling individual lots to home owners or individuals. So that is going to be one of the downsides, is that you only have one builder option currently. That is Our Country Homes. They do have a couple of spec homes. They will kind of let you make your own selections if you want to pick a lot and build with them that way. So one builder, Our Country Homes. They do have a couple of homes available. All of those homes are currently in the low 800s up to right at $1 million. So a little bit above average price point for Aledo, but very attainable. That's where, you do have a lot of buyers that are looking for that, 800 to $1 million. They want that 3,400 square feet. Now you're looking on 2 acres. You're going to be well and septic. And this is one important note to make about what Our Country is doing in this neighborhood. Me having a conversation with them just last week or this week maybe. But these homes are on propane, or some of them are on propane. And what I've seen with other builders multiple times is that they'll have brand new construction home and it will be connected to a propane tank that the builder is renting while they sell the property. And what that means is the buyer now has to buy their own propane tank to service all the gas appliances. And so that's kind of like an annoying thing. It's kind of rubbed some clients the wrong way, and I totally get it. It's like, hey, I'm buying a completed home from you, and you're telling me that if I don't also pay to purchase and to bury a 250 or 500 gallon propane tank, then I have a home that does not have gas service. But I'm buying a home and looking at a home that you currently have gas service connected to. I was talking with them about that, Our Country, the sales rep over there. She said, yes, they are now installing and including in the sale of the home whatever propane tank is attached or needed to run the home. So that's good. That's a nice little note. Like I kind of get it from the builder's perspective. They might be saying, well, hey, like the propane is more of an accessory and we're not going to sell that. But you have a hard time doing real inspections if it's not connected. And if it is connected, like that's what you expect to be buying, the connected propane tank. So just kind of a little annoying thing. Like it's been worked out in the deals I've done with it, but it's something you should be aware of if you're buying from a builder who has propane. If it's not already buried, then it's probably leased and they may not be including a propane tank in the purchase of that home. So important note. No city taxes, wells, septic, propane, we already talked about that. So no city taxes means 1.8% tax rate, which is great. HOA, $1,250 per year. It's not gated and there's no amenities I'm aware of. So the HOA seems a little bit high for what it is, right? So like, yeah, there's like a bank of mailboxes at the front entrance. So maybe they're paying for some lights. Maybe they're going to upkeep that. There's a sign at the entrance, like a stone sign with a neighborhood name. So it looks nice, but there's multiple gated neighborhoods have HOAs that are a little bit less than that. So I'm not sure why the HOA is what it is. Seems a little high to me. It's not crazy. In my personal opinion, it's probably about $500 high. $750-ish probably should be about top end range for HOAs if you're not getting gated and you're not getting amenities. That's my personal opinion. Not going to break the bank, but it's going to be an extra 50-ish bucks a month over some other neighborhoods. But those price points, 800 to about $1 million, reasonable for new construction on land. That's probably what you're looking at. Pre-owned homes, they're 20, 30 years old on an acre at 3,300 square feet. They're going to run 700, 800, and they may not be updated. So you are going to get a pretty good deal on new construction on land. The general vibe of the neighborhood is nice. There are trees out there. There is greenery. It's not just flat pasture land. So personal thoughts. HOA is a little bit high. Bear Creek is kind of out there. So if you're okay with that, no big deal. And then you only get one builder option currently. So I don't have an issue with Our Country Homes. I just like more options. I'm an options guy. So those are kind of three not positives in my book, but the neighborhood is nice. The area is pretty and you are getting some land and it's a kind of a smaller neighborhood feel, unlike some of the neighborhoods like, Bear Creek or something else like that. So if you are looking for something that's a little bit more secluded, maybe that's a little more private, stick around for number 4 because the next one's gated. Okay, so number 4 on the list is a little bit unique in that it is the only neighborhood on the north side of I-20 that we're talking about today. The number 4 is going to be Aledo Bluffs, and it is located, again, north of the highway. So you're going to go north on 3325, which is, that's what the road is north of 20, where 1187 goes south. So you're going north on 3325, you're going to go past Morningstar, and then you're gonna hit White Settlement Road and take a right, which is east going towards Fort Worth. You're gonna head in that way and you're gonna go down a mile or two and you're gonna turn into Tiara Ranch. So you're gonna turn onto Tiara Trail and you're gonna drive through Tiara Ranch. And so Aledo Bluffs is actually on the other side of Tiara Ranch. So you have to drive through a different neighborhood to get there. But one of the great things about this neighborhood is it is gated. And not only is it gated, it's one of the few neighborhoods that they keep the gates closed every day. Every time I go there, I have to either have a code or have to, follow someone in, depending on what we're doing. So Aledo Bluffs is gated. It is going to be, again, north side of, go 3325 and White Settlement, head towards Fort Worth, heading east, and then TR Trail. So that's where it's at. Lots. So the lots are going to be mostly between 2 and 2.5 acres. And I have seen one 4-acre parcel that sold. And then the value. So what is that going to cost you? Really, and if I haven't said it in other videos, I think I have, basically the minimum that you're going to spend if you want land in Aledo to build on, for the minimum amount of land that's required to build, you're gonna spend like $200,000. So 2 to 2.5 acres in this neighborhood is gonna be between 210 and 275. That's about expected. And then when I say to build on, I mean if you wanna have well and septic. So the minimum buildable lot that's not gonna be hooked up to city utilities where you need well and septic is now 2 acres. So basically minimum you're spending is basically $200,000. Anything less than that is probably in a floodplain. So who's building here? Who do you have options to work with? You have Henning Custom Homes. Ryan is great. I know he has at least one spec in there right now as of the recording of this video. You have Cross Custom Homes. I think MK may have built in the past and there might be building. MK does like custom homes for people a lot of times at that price range. And then you have Skytop Homes. So there are some really good high-end builders in there. You can buy your own lots and then build with whichever builder you want as long as they follow the guidelines. And it's, like I said, there is a gate, so there is an HOA. So HOA dues are about $750 a year, which is really probably strictly going to maintaining the gate and the entrances. There are 3 gates. So there's one coming through to our ranch, and then there's 2 on like the back side of the neighborhood that you could come in that way if you wanted to. I like Aledo Bluffs. It does have some like rolling hills. You can still get lots that are heavily treed, so you'd have to pull some out, right, to build, but you can still get some good treed lots in there. Now, price points. So you're looking at about 1.1 to 1.3 for the most part of what I'm seeing available and then has sold in the recent past. But you are also do not have city taxes, so you have a 1.8% tax rate over here. And then you are actually, because you're on the north side of the highway, elementary school that you're going to be feeding into is going to be McCall Elementary. Think about if that's a concern to you. So what are my personal thoughts on Aledo Bluffs? If you want a little bit more privacy, Aledo Bluffs is going to be great. If you want kind of that, not low-end luxury, but you want luxury without going to $1.5, $2 million, Aledo Bluffs is going to be great. You know, low millions, 1.1 to 1.3 range. That's going to be a little bit more approachable for the people who are even looking at that price point, right? It's not to say that everyone should be looking at that because it's just not realistic. That's going to be good. I like the layout of the lots. I like that you get a good size. I like that you're kind of out in a way. You actually feel like you're kind of in the country because you don't really drive past any sort of commercial development when you head that way. What do I dislike? If you're going to be Aledo centric, like you want to do some of the Aledo restaurants, you want to go Hudson Oaks, Willow Park, HEB, Costco, you're kind of far away. The closest, most reasonable shopping for you is probably going to be continuing to head in east on White Settlement Road and going into White Settlement, where, you know, maybe you got the Home Depot, you got a Walmart, nothing super fancy, but for your everyday needs, it's probably going to be closer to go, you know, basically head in towards the loop on 820 and kind of hit those areas. So I like being Aledo centric. I like to be able to go into the downtown area. When I say Aledo, I really mean the kind of that Aledo ISD as a whole, like that community. So you've got Willow Park, Hudson Oaks. I like being able to dine and hang out and do stuff in those general areas and it not be a 15, 20-minute drive, which it might be at Aledo Bluffs. So mostly pros, I think, unless you really want to feel like you're closer into the Aledo vibe, then that might be the downside. But if you are looking for a little bit of land, you know, over 2 acres, that high-end luxury, you are going to be kind of limited to what that is, and especially if you want gated. So that's going to be a +2. But stick around for last on the list, because I think last on the list is going to hit a lot of check boxes if you're looking for luxury and you want to be kind of more close to the Aledo area. Okay, so last on the list is a high-end, you know, new luxury neighborhood that actually kind of snuck in right under my nose. It's really not that far from my actual house. I drove past there all the time. I knew there was some development going on, but I was always, you know, headed to show a client or in a hurry to get somewhere and never got a chance to like stop and like see what was going on. So there's actually already a handful of houses that are either under construction or very near completion. And this is Summit Ranch. So this is going to be a high-end neighborhood. Price points on these homes right now are in the $1.3 to $1.6 million range. And these are like really nice high-end builders. You've got LBK Homes, you've got MK Homes, you got Cross Custom at least. So there's some good builders building in that neighborhood. The last time I looked, I think LBK was the only one currently like offering kind of like a luxury spec, you know, that you could just buy as it was being built. The others, you might have to buy a lot. There are currently lots available in there, and they're going to range somewhere 270 to 330, so maybe 300,000 plus or minus for about plus or minus 2.5 acres. So obviously the smallest you could possibly get is 2 acres, but I think they're all at least a little bit larger than that. And I think they go up to high 2s, maybe 3. So you're not getting any huge like estate size lots, no 5-7 acre lots like some of the other neighborhoods we've talked about. But you are getting, you know, a full a little over 2 acres. And so what that means is you're not going to have any city utilities, which means no city taxes. So you're going to be on a private well. You're going to have your own septic system. If you want gas, you're going to have a propane tank. So that's good to know, right? Some people actually prefer propane over gas. Have a client like that right now. And if you don't want propane, you can go all electric if you build your own property, buy a lot, build your own home, or you build with a builder who already has a lot in that neighborhood. So I know I have a couple of videos on the different ways to go about like building new construction. If that's what you're interested in, check that out. And then I'm gonna have a video about the best neighborhoods to buy your own lots in. So check that out when it comes out. But what are my personal thoughts on Summit Ranch? So what I didn't mention yet is that HOA is gonna be $500 a year. So like super reasonable. And then you are not going to be inside city limits. So you're going to have no city taxes. So you have a 1.8% tax rate. So personal thoughts. Based on the location, which I think I skipped right past, but the location of Summit Ranch is super convenient. It is straight down FM5 off Muir Road and Savage. So I've talked in other videos or in past videos about how you have like the FM5 1187 loop going through like Aledo. So I live off FM5. If you go straight down FM5, you go past Annetta Elementary, which this neighborhood feeds into Annetta Elementary. As where it starts to curve east, where FM5 starts to curve east to start making that U shape, Muir Road juts off straight west. And really you go like maybe 200 yards and you get to Savage Road, Savage Lane. You get to Savage. And then Savage and Muir, that corner is where Summit Ranch is. So it's really convenient. You're not having to drive another 5-10 minutes. It's probably almost half the distance to the highway as like La Madera. So that's great. That's a big plus in my book. Super convenient. You will be driving through one school zone if you're driving during, school drop-off pickup. But that's just Annetta. That's just one elementary. You're not having to drive through 1187 where you're driving past like 3 school zones. And then you're not off Bear Creek Road where a lot of these other new constructions are, which are even further away. So I really like the location. Downside, price point, right? You're looking at, maybe twice the average price of Aledo. If the average price in Aledo is about 700 and you're looking at 1.3 to 1.6, you're looking at spending a fair amount of money, right? And then not all these neighborhoods that are at this price point are gated, but sometimes that is something that, someone spending $1.5 million would prefer, they would like. They want, maybe more like the Rancho Ladera, which are a little higher price point anyways. Maybe they want the La Madera, but then you even have neighborhoods that are a little bit less that are gated. So if you're looking for gated, it doesn't have that, but it does have some other, really cool benefits to Summit Ranch. So I think it's a great place to be. I think it's a great location, and I think people are really going to like Summit Ranch. Okay, now for you super sleuth researchers that are planning your move to Aledo, maybe I didn't share anything new with you. Maybe you had already seen all of these neighborhoods. But if I did share something new that you didn't know before, let me know what that was in the comment section. If you do have questions on any of these neighborhoods, or if there's a neighborhood you've stumbled across but are having trouble finding more information about it, reach out to me directly, because if you are thinking about making that move to the Aledo area, it is better to start those conversations sooner rather than later. I have a couple of guys who they're not coming out until, maybe they're 3 months out, but it helps to have those conversations so I understand what you're looking for. I can keep my eyes on it, and then potentially, hopefully, set some time aside for you so that I can make sure that when you are in town, you get to see everything you want to see, and we make sure that you find the best fit for you and your family. So if you like this about new construction neighborhoods, but you are also thinking about buying land and building on your own land, hit that subscribe button, because the next video that I'm going to send out is going to be about the best neighborhoods to buy your own land in. So come back for that next time.